Well, welcome everybody. I'm super excited that Alex Uttermann has made some time for us today because the Spiritual Social Club loves to have conversations with people who are doing their work, right? They are doing important work in this space of raising frequency and also expanding knowledge. And I love, Alex, I resonated so much with your story because you didn't believe in any of this stuff either. You didn't believe in any of this shit either. And then
Yeah,
lo and
yeah,
behold, here you are now a global spiritual, inspirational healing leader and educating a lot of people about the importance of this healing work. So thank
right.
you for being here. And how the heck are you?
Well, I'm doing great. Thank you so much.
Good.
And just kind of hanging here in Los Angeles, which is
Yep.
my home place, and doing my work, teaching and healing online. Mostly these days, training top healers to be able to do like what I do, which is learn all the systems that I learned in India
Right.
from Swami Kaleshwar, who is my astounding master and teacher. And bringing all of the information about the mechanisms of our creation back into our creation,
I
which
think
is no small feat.
not at all. And I was going to say, you've taken on a major task. A lot of the wonderful teachings that you speak about, and Sri Kalishwar, oh my goodness, left us way
Mm.
too early. Didn't he?
I was shocked he stayed as long as he did.
Really? Okay. All right. How old was he when he passed?
30, let's see, wait, he left in 2012, so
Okay.
39. I was
Okay.
amazed he made it that long, actually.
Wow. Wow.
My
Because he
image
told
of,
you, he told you
oh,
he would.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, from the get-go. I met him in
Mhm.
1999 when he was then 27.
Mhm.
And he was always saying, hey, if I'm around for another year, you guys are so lucky. He wanted out.
Wow.
Oh boy, did he want out.
Wow.
It's hard to be in a body, especially when one is such a cosmic kind of soul. But he had to do some work, so he came in the form
Right.
and suffered in the
Yeah.
form to do it.
Well, you watched him perform miraculous healings from healing the latest stage possible cancers. And I want to ask you about this too, because
Mm.
as somebody who witnessed so much healing, I've witnessed it too. I've gone to see John of God. I've seen
Mm.
Master John Douglas. I've seen people wave their hands and create magic.
Mm.
And you
Mhm.
saw, I mean, you've witnessed so many things. How is it, do you think, that some people can heal in a glance and some people repeatedly go back and go back and go back and don't heal? Is it karma? Is it combination? Is it
Mm.
acceptance?
It's a lot of things. It's a lot of convergence of many different elements. Yes, number one is their karma. Number
Right.
two, it's the capacity of the healer. Number three, it's the sort of, you could say, the cosmic will.
Mhm.
Swami Kalipur famously would say, well, 4 out of 5 cancer patients I can heal, but the fifth one, no, no permission. Mother Divine herself won't. They
Mhm.
have to go through it.
Right.
So it's a confluence of a lot of things. And it also has to do, I think, with how open is the heart of the person receiving the healing. And
Right.
open heart doesn't mean they have to be, all in, there's God and all this stuff works. Their heart might be open to the healer,
Mhm.
like they like that person, they feel an affinity or a rapport there. It might be they don't know this healer, but they've heard about mantra. And so they realize that's an angle that might help them, like wherever their heart is a little bit open,
Mhm.
then that's a big entry point for the energy to be able to come in and really help them.
Right. Well, you always
Hmm.
said you didn't see yourself going to India, yet how did you find yourself, winding up in India on Christmas Day and like tracking all the lost years of Jesus? Like, what? How did that happen?
How did that happen? Yeah, last place in the world I ever wanted to go was India.
Mhm.
And yeah, it was a funny thing. So I met Swami Kaleshwar in the fall of 1999 in
Mhm.
the United States, and I had the great good fortune to travel with him in a number of localities. We were first in Washington State and in different places around Seattle area, and then we came through Northern California, north of San Francisco, and then we came to Southern California with him. So he had all of these a tour arranged basically to go different places and meet with different groups of people, both in public settings and in smaller, more private groups. And he had already been 2 years in the West, so he had a fair amount of Western students already who were also coming to all these events. And of course, they were bringing their friends, and people had heard about him, and so on. So I had the opportunity to observe him under many, many different circumstances with many groups of people, all very different flavors. and to see him perform miraculous transmissions, miraculous healings, to perform miracles. The first thing he did for me, which was completely unexpected, was he manifested a whole pile of ash just out of his fingertips into my hand. And
Whoa.
I really did not expect that. I knew he had these abilities, of course.
Mhm.
Somehow the dots hadn't connected in my brain that I would ever witness such a thing.
Right.
So that was astonishing. And it wasn't even that he could do that, it was the wave of energetic
Mhm.
transformation that occurred instantly as a result of him doing that. That
Right.
was the real miracle. The physicality of it, the ash coming out of his fingertips, while it was astonishing, was more the byproduct of the healing itself.
Mhm.
So I saw him do all these kinds of things, and they were quite astonishing. I saw him in a group of 400 people open everybody's heart like that and do a massive healing for the pains and the traumas and the heartbreaks that everybody in the room was carrying. And that's really what cemented it for me. Like, I already knew I was going to India to study with him.
Mhm.
I already knew this was my path, like it or not, and I wasn't sure I liked it. I
Yep.
was deeply skeptical, as you
Yeah.
mentioned.
Yep.
Um, but I found myself on a plane to South India for Christmas of 1999 within, I think, maybe 6 weeks of having met him, maybe 2 months.
Mhm.
And that was it. And then, I kept going back to train with him because what he was teaching was so extraordinary. There
Mhm.
was no spiritual
Mhm.
teacher, master, anybody on the planet explaining A, B, C, D. These are the mechanics of how miracles work.
Mhm.
These are the mechanics of how karmas operate and that cause different, sometimes catastrophic conditions in people's lives,
Right.
whether it's massive traumas or horrible diseases and health conditions, or whether it's, life wipeouts,
Yeah.
losing one's fortune or a total professional crash, or whatever it is. He was explaining everything and then giving the remedies about how to address these
Right.
to help people, like supernatural medicine to
Mhm.
help instantly, no matter what kind of a condition someone is facing. For me, it was like being in medical school, but on you could say, a soul science research level.
Right.
And I had been waiting for that, I think, my whole life to that point.
Well, science hugely important to you. Your father was a surgeon, your mother was a
Mm-hmm.
nurse. This is
Mm-hmm.
why medicine is a lot of people say, well, medicine and spirituality can never mesh. And it's like, what do
Nonsense.
you say to those people? Because it isn't.
Nonsense.
Yeah.
The divinity will work through anything. And Swami Kaleshwar especially, he would say, oh yeah, go take the surgery, go do the whatever the physicians tell you. I will work right through that.
Mhm.
So many times, like, my colleagues would face pretty life-threatening things while we were in India, and he would say, yeah, go get it taken care of. So, intestinal surgeries and giant thyroid goiter surgeries and all kinds of stuff. And he would say, don't worry about it. I will operate through the physicians.
Wow.
It's not a problem.
Right.
So there's
Like
no
surgery. Yeah.
disconnect between Western medicine. It has its limits, of
Mhm.
course.
Mhm.
It also has its purposes. You have a burst appendix, you're not going to go to, like, a naturopath. You
Right.
need surgery,
Right.
right?
Yes. Yes.
So for intervention, especially
Mhm.
on a kind of emergency level, you break a bone, you're not going to try to set it yourself. That makes no sense, right? You have to go see a physician.
Right.
So that's a technology like any other technology on the planet, and it can work beautifully in conjunction with supernatural or alternative, medicines as well. Why not?
And yeah, we've been talking a lot lately in the social
Mm,
club about intention and
mm,
how an intention can leave a mark, right? And
mm,
in your teachings about the womb chakra, you
mm.
talk about how every union makes a tie, especially, from a woman's perspective, energetically, when, making love with a partner, there is a mark that is left that could
Both. It goes both
both ways.
directions.
It goes, so explain that to the audience. I would love to hear
Yeah,
more.
so it has to do with the soul connection. So one of the things that Swami Kaleshwar brought out to us for the first time, I think it hasn't really been taught on this planet, except mostly in secret. One master would give this understanding to a student or a couple students throughout the last several millennia. But In 2006, Swami Kaleshwar taught us a 7,000-year-old spiritual technology called the Holy Womb Chakra process. And in it, it's talking about the origin of the karmas and how they play out in our lives, why someone comes up with a health disease in this lifetime. Maybe they're like a small child who never did any overt karmas in this lifetime yet. They're too innocent, yet they come up with a terrible disease. Why? What is the karma of that? By the understanding of the womb chakra system, he would say it means in a previous lifetime or lifetimes, they broke a lot of hearts, they hurt people. And that stores up, it's the balance sheet is retained in the womb chakra. Every human being, male or female, has a womb chakra, a
Mhm.
center in the physical system, but more in the soul system of our energetic being. And this partly is the place that holds the balance sheet of the karmas and then sort of helps spit them up in the
Mhm.
field of time. So, like, you had a pretty good life until 20 years old, and then some catastrophic wipeout happened in the field of time. At that exact time in your life, the karmas intersected, the womb chakra went, you need to learn these lessons. And so up comes this whole mountain of karmic debt that is a bill that needs to be paid. And
Yeah.
largely it has to do with if we hurt people's hearts in this or in other lifetimes. It's a reflection. It's not a judgment. It's a action to reaction is the nature of karma. So all of these are stored in the womb chakra. And there's this technology, this holy womb chakra process, when it's a system of mantras and a yantra, and it's a whole spiritual technology, you could say, that when it's practiced correctly, starts to dissolve the layers of karmas that are held at the womb chakra, this fundamental foundational place in all of us, which is not any of the conventional chakras you see in the books or that people talk about. It is not the second chakra. It is behind all of them. And you could say it's like literally the mother of all chakras.
Mhm.
It is also the soul's connecting point to the universal womb and creation energy of the mother divine, of the
Yeah.
divine feminine, the universal creatrix. So here's the thing, if somebody has a damaged womb chakra, damage means it's disturbed. It's had a lot of heartbreak over many lifetimes or this lifetime. It means the soul is hanging out in this area called the womb chakra in our subtle system, but it can't do what should happen from that place, which is connect to the huge cosmic creation energy, because the whole thing is kind of distorted.
Mhm.
You could think of it like you built a beautiful temple there, your soul is living in there, but the walls are caving in and the foundation is funky. It's not stable. And most of us make decisions and take actions in our lives that are based out of this distorted kind of disturbed place, let's say. So
Mhm.
then that creates more of that and more of that and more of that. And now there's more karma and now there's more damage to the womb chakra or disturbance. And it means it's very hard to connect to the high spirituality when all of those disturbances are there. So, one major crucial part of it is when we create heartbreak in other people, knowingly or unknowingly, the womb chakra gets a little disturbed. The other part of it is when we have sex, when we have sexual partners. It's a soul mechanism. The chakra is open when people have sex. Even it's casual, even somebody paid a prostitute. Doesn't matter. When you put those forms together in that way, the chakra is open and the souls actually merge.
Mhm.
That merging doesn't go away after the sexual act is finished. Oh, no, no, no. And so both people, either male or female, are now linked to that person that they had sex with, even if it was a one and done. Even you didn't know their name, doesn't matter. What that means is, let's say someone has 50, 100 sexual partners over a lifetime. That's like 50 to 100 different walls that are there at the level of the womb chakra between them and connecting to the God. It's hard to connect to the cosmic when there are all these layers of disturbance, let's say, to the womb chakra in between. Not a moral judgment, it's an energetic judgment.
Right.
So, what it means practically when the souls link like that is, let's say somebody had like 5 sexual partners over their lifetime and they
Mhm.
were relationships and some of them didn't go well.
Mhm.
because of that soul link, first off, every time that person that you broke up with thinks about you and they're angry still, maybe 10 years, 20 years later, that energy comes to you and disturbs the womb chakra.
Wow.
Point one. Point two, let's say you've connected to 5 different people. 4 of them are having a shitty day.
Mhm.
They're really upset, depressed, having tragedies, whatever. Your own system is feeling that because of that womb to womb connection. And you might be overwhelmed with anxiety or fear or depression or some crazy thing that's not you.
Yeah.
It's very confusing to the inner mechanism when there's all this cross interference going on from all these different wombs that we have all connected to. Again, this affects both men and women equally.
Yes.
Everybody has a womb chakra.
Mhm.
Women physicalize it. It's a place where we can create a child and give birth, but everybody has a womb chakra and is subject to this dynamic. And mostly we're really ignorant about that. And so
So,
the craziness perpetuates,
so
Mm-hmm.
instead of feeling hopeless about it, as many people might be watching this and going, "Oh my gosh, I'm doomed," or "Oh, my college years, whoa, woe is me,"
Yeah.
or
Or the 60s.
whoa, hello, yeah, and like, eek.
Yeah.
So with that being said, you have talked about and you teach a lot of things on this, but to give our viewers and listeners a tool right now that they can use. Obviously, awareness is the first step, right? Knowing that we all have a womb chakra and that we can
Mm.
all kind of, and that some of these energies that we're feeling are there because of the exchange and because of the
Mm-hmm.
imprint and all of that. But what can one do right now just to help release some of that?
Well, I would say run to my website and get the teaching on the Holy Womb Chakra and
Absolutely.
learn the system properly. There are a
Correct.
number of mantras. There's a spiritual diagram called a yantra, which is like a mandala, sort of, but it expresses the energy structure of the womb chakra, like of your individual womb chakra, but vis a vis the cosmic womb.
Mhm.
And there's a practice that goes along with it. It's a daily practice. There are certain mantras that are done for like 101 days
Yeah.
in succession, a certain amount of
Yes.
times per day. Like it's a real technology. It's kind of like a recipe.
Yes.
If you are going to make brownies, you need X amount of eggs and X amount of flour and X amount of butter and
Right.
chocolate. If you play with the proportions and you just go, I'm just going to make it up myself, yeah, well, good
Right.
luck. You're going to get something, but it may not be brownies.
Right.
Similarly, when the ancient saints wrote these technologies down,
Mhm.
they're very specific about the sort of recipe to get the proper results. So they're actually, formal practices.
Mhm.
I would say, it's a huge discussion. I mean, the
Yeah,
teaching on the womb chakra is about 5 or 6 hours long
for sure.
because there's like a 50-page transcript that goes
Mhm.
along with it that has a really huge amount of information in it.
And
Um,
I don't want to shortchange any of that. And I want people to understand, like it's like you say, a recipe has a lot of ingredients.
yes.
Don't go to the drive-through. It's not the same.
Yeah.
And there's also vibration and frequency with the words and the teachings, because 7,000 years ago, this has been
A
imparted.
subtler time.
Yes. And so I'm encouraging anyone who's listening to this conversation or watching it to go and do that research and dig. Energeticsofselfcare.com is where you can
No,
or
no, ma'am.
UCB
The
key.
womb
Yeah,
chakra, the womb chakra
Universal
will be found
Church.
on
Yeah. Yeah, sorry.
ucbk.org.
So UCBK, if you go to
Mm-hmm.
ucbk.org,
.org.
that is where you can catch this information,
Mm-hmm.
and you go on and you click on events, and then you scroll down to the events, and the workshops are there. I remember because
Yeah,
I was doing this,
yeah.
and it's really there's also a YouTube video that you can find where Alex is talking about this for an hour and
More in detail.
summarizing more in detail.
Yeah.
I highly recommend that as well. But this one,
So,
I just want to share with you this one thing that happened to me, Alex. The
mm,
Clean Rah Rah.
yes, I was going to talk about that. Hmm.
Okay, thank you. Because
Please, no, go ahead. Tell me what happened.
so after watching and doing research and digging, I just decided to do a little timed meditation because you talk about the number nine having a lot of significance. I know it's very significant. There's a
Mm,
9 minute. I decided for 9 minutes I was going to chant Om
mm,
Clean Ra Ra and do
mm,
this 9 days in a row. But I did it today. I was sharing with you that my dog had to jump on me. But what
mm,
I felt was um, complete tingling and
mm.
a frequency hum. I felt the hum happening, and it started in my feet and then went up through my whole. And so I'm sharing that because, like you say, and I love this. I had to write it down. You said these are angelically infused syllables,
Yes.
angelically infused syllables, and that's a really important thing. So now I'd love to hear you talk more about Om Kli
Yeah.
Ra.
Yeah. So there is a mantra in the whole system of the womb chakra.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there are many mantras in there, but one of the mantras that is specifically for any kind of heartbreak. Heartbreak
Mm-hmm.
doesn't only mean romantic, although it certainly includes that. Heartbreak means any trauma, any
Mm-hmm.
loss, any disappointment that really leaves a mark, that really stings, over
Mm-hmm.
time. It could be professional, it could be a betrayal from a good friend or a business partner or something like that. It could be family of origin trauma and abuse. It could be growing up in a war zone. It could be anything that we would associate PTSD with. That's extreme heartbreak.
Yeah.
And to pull back the layers of that, to dissolve that at the level of the womb chakra, there's a mantra, a very simple mantra, which is Om Kleem, Kleem, Ra Ra, Ra. Om Kleem Ra Ra, which, if it's done, I mean, properly, it should be done 108 times a day, 101 days to
Mm-hmm.
get the full benefit of that mantra. 108 is a magic number of the traditional malas, the japa malas that are either
Yes.
lotus seed or rudraksha.
Mm-hmm.
108, 1 plus 0 plus 8 again equals 9, which is the peak sort of number of the divine feminine, of divine mother in her strongest form. 9 planets in our solar system, 9 months to form and birth a child internally. Like 9 has a lot of resonance to our creation capacity, and both in the macrocosm as well as the microcosm.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so 108 times a day, 101 days. And to get the benefit of it, one would try to use it all the time, even as a background thought throughout the day. Let's
Yeah.
say you're facing a real pain right now. Maybe there was a bad breakup, or maybe you just lost a job that was really important, or someone died who's really close to you, and it's just, you can't come up out of it
Mm-hmm.
by yourself. I would start using Om Klim Ra Ra. Just you repeat it. Om Klim Ra Ra, Om Klim Ra Ra, Om Klim Ra. Internally is better than externally.
Mm-hmm.
But you could use it as a background thought whenever the feelings surface, whenever there's that gripping, painful downward pull, whenever you have a memory of some sort of trauma or pain.
Yeah.
Like it can be applied in a lot of different ways, but you could use it as a formal meditation also.
Yeah.
But the point of it would be to do it on a daily basis as much as possible. And even after a few weeks, you would see the painful, the intensity level of it start to diminish. And
Right.
after a while, you can function again
Mm-hmm.
in a way that normally it would take somebody maybe a couple years to recover from such a wipeout or such a blow.
Absolutely.
But it can happen very quickly using this supernatural tool, Om Klim Ra Ra. And to say that the 9-minute wound chakra healings are a really specific technology, it's a hands-on healing
Okay. Yeah.
technology
Mhm.
that's our 9-minute transmissions straight to the womb chakra, not using Om Klim Ra Ra. It's a completely different thing.
Right.
That's an option for people who can find through our website, actually at ucbk.org. We list healers worldwide.
Perfect.
In Europe, certainly in Canada and US and Eurasia, not Eurasia, Oceania. We have
Nice.
somebody in New Zealand who can do these as well. And she sometimes goes to Australia to do the womb chakra healings for people. So those are hands on. And
Perfect.
it's a straight transmission to that region
Perfect.
of the human physical system that hits that energy system that just undoes essentially all of your lifetime's worth of karmas
Mm. There's
systematically over the 9 different sessions. Yeah. Mhm.
there's a powerful prayer that Catholics I was adopted by several Catholics during the pandemic to be brought into a prayer group that did the rosary, and I didn't even know what a decade was. So it was like very
Ah.
important, right, for me to learn the protocol. And one of the
Mhm.
prayers is Mary, undoer of knots. And so
Mm,
I became very, very connected to the Blessed Mother energy. And I
mm.
know that you, especially with the womb chakra, can you touch on that and the special, unbelievable magic, if you will, divine essence that the Blessed Mother, of course, with even just the creation of Jesus. I mean, that is like you mentioned that pregnancy can happen within the womb
Mhm.
chakra, not with insertion. It's
Correct.
divine.
No sexual union. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's happened in our histories.
Yeah.
It's happened in the present day. I know somebody who had a child in such a way. But um, yeah, so the rosary. Hmm.
Mhm.
Interesting. Do you know how
Yeah.
many beads are on a whole rosary?
5 decades, 10. See, I don't even, I'm a terrible rosary student.
54.
I would say
It's interesting.
50 and then, yeah,
It's a half
sure.
of a mala
Yeah, very good.
from the Indian tradition, and 5 plus 4 equals
Hmm. There you
9.
go. Yep,
There,
yep.
we're back to it. What is a novena? It's 9 days of doing the rosary for Mother Divine, for Mother Mary. Mm.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
came straight from India.
There you
Anyway,
are. Yeah.
so Mother Mary, yes, she's one of our foremost exemplars of the Divine Mother's energy in our world and in our history. And her nature, she was an incredibly powerful, she was what we would call in the Vedic tradition a siddha. She was an incredible supernatural soul who had meditated many, and I'm not exaggerating, millions of lifetimes
Mm,
to gain that incarnation, to play that role in our history, to bring Christ into this world. She was no slouch, even as a 15-year-old girl. She was not, this might upset some Catholics, I'm sorry, but she
mm.
wasn't like visited by an angel randomly and suddenly given the
Right.
joyful burden of having Christ as her child. It came through her dialogue with Mother Divine, with the high divine feminine in a form.
Hmm.
And Mother Mary said to Divine Mother, I cannot stand the suffering in the world. Please let me be the one to fix it. Let me be the one to take it all on and dissolve it. And Mother herself, the big cosmic mother, said, yeah, you're part of nature as a female. To change the nature of this planet from inside nature, it's tricky.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really do that so well as a female character. It, I think it's akin to why you don't do surgery on yourself, even if you know that skill, right?
Sure.
There are
Right.
laws about that.
Right.
Um, Better have an external character who's a little bit can stand back from it and change the nature. And so Mother Divine's response to her was, "We will send you a son who can do that. A male character can stand a little bit apart from nature and affect on nature more dramatically than you can from within nature."
Mm,
And so that's the conversation that occurs. And then Mother Mary, through the womb chakra, actually becomes pregnant with Christ and births him. And my understanding is, yeah, there was no sexual union there.
yeah. Yeah.
It's a pure womb chakra dynamic. So she's an extraordinary figure in our world. You know, there was some poll years ago, maybe 30 years ago now. I believe it was among American Catholics, but it might have been worldwide Catholics. And they asked, who do you pray more to for relief, Jesus or his mother? And it was like 2/3 mother.
Mhm. Right.
Everybody runs to mommy for help because she'll give it,
Right.
right? That's the nature of a mother. They can't resist when the kids are crying,
Right.
you know, and everybody
Mhm.
has a feeling about her like that.
Yeah.
So we could say she's an embodiment of the larger divine mother. She's also a little bit unusual in our world. One of the things that my master would say about her and about Jesus was that they had the two strongest womb chakras we've ever seen in our whole planet in its entire history. It means their capacity to digest and transform negativity, pain, suffering, trauma, illusion, ignorance, cruelty, victimization, all of it is extraordinary. And for that reason, I mean, I think most world religions have a huge respect for Jesus, even if that isn't their particular religious path, right?
Mhm.
We see it in Islam, we see it in India,
Yeah.
we see it among Buddhists. You know, everybody's like, okay, but Jesus is really something. Yeah.
Right.
And I think part of the reason for that is his extraordinary capability to absorb and transform negativity, and his mother
Yeah.
right there with him, you could say.
Mhm.
So she is an embodiment of Divine Mother, as every female is, actually. Every female, little girls, teenage girls, grown women, old ladies, same.
Yeah.
And we've had, of course, many great female saints from all traditions and all walks who have graced our planet who are operating in the same kind of way. But
Yeah.
nobody to you could say, the elevated heights and capacity of Mother Mary in our world.
Yeah. I have a personal miracle that I don't really talk about, but when things were really hitting the fan during the pandemic, and I was in this rosary group, and I just collapsed, and I asked and I begged her
Mm,
to show me something, give me an inkling of what to do. I just, and then I passed out literally with the
mm,
rosary in my hands and woke to a text from a dear friend who happened to be praying the rosary on the other side of the country with a friend. And she said that my face came to her third
mm,
eye and she knew that I needed help. And she literally answered my prayer. Like, for people who are skeptical, and hey, I'm a journalist, we need our sources. I want to call them on a landline. I'm not going to pray to
right,
the sky and yap at the ceiling. Like, we
right.
need to know, what's going on. And some things you cannot explain in simple 3D terms, period, end of story. And
Mm-hmm.
until I witnessed it and experienced it myself, you
Mm,
can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. And I
correct.
know you have so many instances. I mean, just the blood alone on Christmas in India. I mean, I don't know if you feel like sharing that, but that's like one of the most incredible stories I've ever heard about a skeptic being completely, like
Blown open on every conceivable
completely,
level. Yeah.
completely.
Yeah. Do we have time? I mean, I'm happy
Yeah,
to
let's
tell
do
it.
it. Absolutely. It's so
Okay.
powerful. Yeah, we're going longer
Sure.
than I thought, but like, if you don't mind, I would
Say
love
la
it.
vie. No, I'm
Yeah.
good. I have time. So, yes, I was deeply, I would say, looking back on it now, I was deeply heartbroken, of
Mhm.
course. And 90% of the people in this planet are heartbroken. And from there, all the other ailments come,
Right.
whether it's emotional issues or physical problems, that develop. It's coming from initial, really painful heartbreaks. And nobody on this planet gets a pass, from heartbreak. So, and heartbreak itself turns into a lot of other symptoms like depression, anxiety, PTSD, fear, insecurity, codependency, addictions, and skepticism. An unhealthy skepticism, suspicious nature. A heartbreak with God means I don't want anything to do with that.
Hmm.
Forget it.
Right.
Right. So it comes out a lot of different ways depending on somebody's configuration of how they express a painful event in their life, but for sure it will happen one way or another, and there are distinct symptoms. So I would say I was deeply heartbroken, but of course I didn't fully recognize that at the time. So I had met, as I said, Kalashwar in the U.S. and had seen him do quite astonishing things, and he had made me promise I would come to India as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there I am in December of 1999 on a plane to South India, thinking, what on earth am I doing? This is insane. And hastily learning certain mantras on the plane on the way there, to be prepared to have at least some basic foundational way to navigate through this energy when I got to his ashram in South India. I mean, just the whole thing, like being around a guru, being around somebody who had miracle abilities, going to a spiritual place, an ashram, all of this was just honestly anathema to me. I was like, oh, hell no.
Mhm.
No, I'm not that person. I'm not
Right.
one of those people who does that.
Mhm.
But I can say his energy caught me, and that he was so practical about it and matter of fact. Not at all woo woo, not at all some mystical up on a pedestal, blah, blah, blah. He was personable, he was brilliant, he was young, he was funny, and he had this energy that was undeniable. And to see it in motion in the miracles was pretty gobsmacking. So I had some taste of that before I got to India. And in South India itself, I mean, it was a whole different culture for me. It was really, a lot of things are in your face in India that are not in the West.
I hear, yeah. Hmm.
The smells, the colors, it's not unusual to see a funeral procession with a dead person going by. I mean, everything is out in the open, the good, the bad, the indifferent. the hideous, the beautiful, everything.
Right.
So that's its own kind of shock, right? Then we get to the ashram, and oh my God. I mean, that's a culture within a culture, right? And the energy of his place in a small village called Penukonda. Penukonda, it's a, I didn't know any of this at the time, but it is the place where a very powerful form of Mother Divine in our planet, a really strong form of Kali, a very fierce mother, was created and presides there.
Mhm.
And it is, I would say, one of the most powerful places on our planet. I mean, we know places like Machu Picchu or Jerusalem or the pyramids at Giza, or, there are many, many powerful places in our world. Penukonda,
Mm.
yeah, I would say eclipses all of them.
Wow. South
And
India, like South India
it
area?
is in South India. Yeah, it's 3.5 hours, like to the northeast of Bangalore, for
Got
people
it.
who know.
Mhm.
So that was a shock, landing in that energy. And I had never been in a place where the energy was palpable like this,
Yeah.
like thick, like you could hardly think. I could hardly think. I could hardly move. Literally, physically, like it was
Whoa.
like pushing through molasses just to do normal things because it is so thick there.
Wow.
And just when I thought, am I going bonkers? Like, am I imagining this? I would see two old timers who were used to this place pass each other in the hallway, look at each other as they trudged
Mm.
toward one another and go, "Whoa, the energy." And the other one's like nodding.
Yeah.
That's it. They couldn't even speak. And I'm thinking, okay, so I'm not crazy. This is really a thing.
Mhm. Right.
Okay.
It's reassuring.
And then he's teaching every day, like, I don't know, 4 or 6 hours a day, healing techniques. I mean, like A to Z, everything about the human condition of suffering that you ever want to know. If somebody has this condition, here's a formula, a supernatural mantra or a remedy to address it.
Mm.
And this one, and this one. And it was like medical school. I couldn't write fast enough. And I was like a kid in a candy store because despite my skepticism, I had been already a healer of sorts
Mhm.
in the run up to this time for a couple of years. And things would happen that I certainly couldn't explain.
Sure.
And I didn't know, honestly, that anybody could explain those inexplicable
Mhm.
things that would occur in the course of doing healing for people. Yet here's somebody who's like, no, it's a technology. Let me break it down for you and explain the mechanisms.
Right.
Okay,
Oh,
that was thrilling. And then throughout these day-long lectures about every healing tool on the planet, he would sometimes say, and Jesus knew these same mantras. Jesus in India practiced these same things. And I'm like, how did we get to this conversation about Jesus? That's a little interesting. Like, I'm here with this exotic young miracle healing saint,
right.
and he's deferring to Christ, and he's referencing Christ in India, which I
Wow.
knew about. I had heard vaguely about that, so this was not a stretch for me.
Mhm.
Um, but the way he was talking about Christ was so intimate that
Right.
I rapidly got the point. Oh, wait, there's way more afoot here than
Mhm.
just a casual reference to somebody. This is like he knows Jesus, and he's bringing it home to us that these are exactly the same techniques that Jesus used to learn the miracles.
Mm.
Learn. He didn't come in. Yes, he came in as a huge soul with the capacity for all of that, yet still in a human form, he had to learn A, B, C, D the same way that we were from the same source material.
Wow.
Ancient manuscripts that have been written by the ancient rishis or cosmic researchers
Mm.
thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. Literally the same manuscripts we were studying, Jesus had also studied.
Mm.
Okay, so
Right.
this is beginning to penetrate, sort of, in a
Right.
vague kind of, but there's a lot going on, and so it's not really exactly landing. But
Mhm.
that's in the air. That's sort of the feeling. And then Swami Kaleshwar, he said, with the grace of Jesus and his cooperation on Christmas Day, I'm going to do a huge miracle.
Oh.
Okay, I've seen him heal people from terminal cancers. I've seen him manifest objects out of thin air. I've seen him manifest ash out of his fingertips. I've seen him open the heart of 400 people with like two mantra syllables.
Uh-huh.
And I'm thinking, well, what's a big miracle? Because
Those are pretty
damn,
big.
this is already pretty,
Yeah.
out of the box, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And then every day that's inching toward Christmas, the energy is getting heavier and thicker and thicker and heavier, like pregnant, right?
Mhm.
It's about to give birth to something. Who knows what? But every day is like an experience of, holy cow, this is just getting more and more and more luminous, but heavy and
Mhm.
thick.
Yeah.
And wow. And like at this point, you essentially have no mind.
Right.
The consciousness is so in the ascendant. The soul is so elevated internally that really there's not much going on with the mind, which is hilarious in a place where everybody's trying to do stuff because you
Yeah.
can't remember anything.
And bumping into each other, time and space is irrelevant. Like, yeah, okay.
People are like, okay, can you go get that thing in the other room? And you're like, okay, where's the other room?
Right.
And what thing? And it's hilarious on the normal level. Like
Right.
nobody can function because it's
Hmm.
so high energy, right?
Wow.
Okay. And then Christmas Day rolls around, and Swami Kaleshwar tags four guys. My then partner, Jonathan Rosen, was one of them.
Mhm.
Um, to he took them to a tree. He showed them these big branches. He said, "Yeah, you're going to get these cut, and then out of these, they were large. Those branches. Um, you're going to debark them, one notch, one nail, build a cross. Have it
Mhm.
done today."
Okie doke.
They had like Swiss Army knives and a hammer or something. It was ridiculous.
Right. They
They
had
had
to
no tools. We're in the middle of
MacGyver
rural India,
across. Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Okay, so wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they did. They spent all day on it. So everybody on the ashram knows a cross is being built.
Right.
This is unnerving,
Yeah.
let
I'm
me say.
sure the
And
curiosity was palpable, I'm sure.
you don't know what's going to happen. And it's magnetizing a lot of divinity, and it's edgy. It's
Hmm.
edgy,
Yeah.
you know. And Swami, for his side, he had been fueling this kind of like, he was talking about particularly gory miracles in the run up to this thing, and things that involve blood and this and that. And I'm like, is he going to put himself on that cross? Because I don't know if I.
Mhm. Wow.
I mean, the feeling, pardon me, was like anything can happen, right?
Right. Right. Right.
Yikes.
Right.
Okay, so then I think a few days before that, someone had mentioned to him about stigmata, which he didn't know the term, And they explained, when a saint is showing blood coming out of different parts of their form, like the wounds of Jesus. And he goes, "Oh, that's interesting." So, like,
Uh-oh.
what are we, Like anything can happen. And a cross is being built on Christmas Day. This is very strange. So the energy that day was so luminous. I swear to God, you could see like the particles in the air, like
Wow.
individuated. It was really intense and amazing. And then that night, they brought the cross into the main temple there. It was just a straight up like this. It didn't have a base, so they had to like prop it with huge rocks against the altar in there. The whole environment was so holy.
Mm.
All the women were in red saris, which is you wear a red sari when it's like a big festival day in India, a big event,
Yeah.
with jasmine in their hair. So there were maybe 150, 160 of us from worldwide,
Mhm.
mostly Europe, mostly German-speaking countries like Germany and Austria,
Mhm.
some other Eastern European countries, some Japanese and Americans mostly. Um, and so to have that many people with the women with the jasmine in the hair, the whole air is, redolent with the jasmine scent is so beautiful. And the men are all in whites, all looking angelic, and there's this cross.
Right.
And I remember Swami had us light candles up on it's a huge like marble stage is the
Yeah.
altar with a giant living statue of his master, Shirdi Sai Baba there. So we all lit candles. So there are like 150 candles burning.
Wow.
It's just like heaven and this scent of jasmine and this energy, right?
Mm.
And Swami, he came out and he gave a talk on Jesus that night that was one for the ages. And thank God it's on film.
Ah,
I actually show it to my students
nice.
when we talk about Jesus in India and all like that.
Yeah.
Among the many things he said that night was a comment that reverberated with me, and I really didn't understand it at the time. And he said, Jesus Christ is the greatest healer who has ever walked on this planet in its entire history.
Hmm.
And all of us, we saints, we yogis, we siddhas, we bow to him.
Mhm.
Like that Jesus had done things on behalf of humanity that nobody before or since had done to that scale. Okay. So I'm like, that's interesting. And I'm wrestling with, a quasi Christianized background that
Right.
wasn't my style. And
Mhm.
who is this Jesus anyway? And what is the deal? And why are you talking about him in India? Like,
Right.
we know about him back in US. We've heard
Right.
all about him. Trust me. So all of this is kind of warring in my system. And yet the energy is
Be denied. Yeah.
irresistible and undeniable. Yeah, and palpable, right? And then he had the four guys go out. I think he actually said something like he's going to make the cross bleed. I think that went right over my head because I was sort of swimming in the energy of it all.
Yeah.
Anyway, he took them out, and then the moment they left, his instructions to all of us sitting there were meditate on Jesus.
Mhm.
And the moment they left that temple building with that huge cross, um, it felt like the Christ energy just descended into the room. It just came. And
Mhm.
it was so perfect and gorgeous and peaceful and loving and palpable. Like, I mean, I swear you could like touch it in the air. It was like velvet.
Mhm.
And I thought, as I'm meditating, oh, that's you.
Right.
Oh, I've known this my whole life. I didn't know it had your name attached to it. Oh my God, how about that? It was very familiar energy to me. Very, very, very familiar. I was like, wow, okay. So I'm in bliss for whatever ensuing half hour, 45 minutes. I don't know how long it was.
Right.
I mean, you meditate in that kind of energy, there's no time space. You don't know how long you were in there. It could be
Sure.
5 minutes, it could be an
Yeah.
hour. You don't know.
Mhm. Mhm.
All I do know is that at the end of some period of time, there was a big commotion in the back of the room
Mhm.
and a lot of rather dramatic ladies going, and I turn around because I think I was sitting sort of toward the front, and there's Swami Kalashwar coming in the room with his cuffs are all stained with blood. He was also wearing whites,
Right.
bright red, I mean blood. And oh, what on earth? And he walked up to his chair in the front of the room. He sat down. I'm like, does he have holes in his feet? Is he showing stigmata? Like, what is this? Where did this blood come from? And he's guzzling. I never saw him do this before or after, ever. Liters of water,
Uh-huh.
liters of water.
Wow.
Drink, 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 drink. Whole bottles going down. And I'm like, what in God's name happened? And then I'm looking in his eyes.
Mm.
And, I knew him pretty well by now. I
Yeah.
mean, I had spent a week or 10 days with him in US. And then he and I had a lot of conversations, in this time on the Pentecosta ashram.
Mhm.
And I'm like, who is that? That's not him. Who is that? His eyes were blazing,
Mm.
blazing, bonfires, uh,
Mhm.
furnaces,
Right.
supernovas. It was like the universal fire. Well, that would explain all the water he's trying to.
There you go. He was.
I'm like, who is that? What is that?
Mhm.
Oh my God. And there's this blood. And none of this is making any sense. And it's all this like, what? And then after he drank all the water, he said, go get those four guys. So they come in and they're this parade of bloody men. I mean, they're covered in blood
Eating.
and they're wearing whites, so it is dramatic.
Yeah.
This juxtaposition of this incredibly bright red blood on their clothing, and they are also, which was really bizarre to me, they're emanating so much light that I
Mm.
actually couldn't make out their features very well, including my own partner, Jonathan.
Right.
I couldn't have picked him out of a crowd at that point because there was like this blinding, I don't see things. Like this had
Mhm.
to be really blinding white light for me to see something on a
Right.
supernatural level, right?
Mhm.
What is this? And so these four men sit up on Kalashwar's instructions around the Baba statue on the big stage, the altar.
Yep.
And he said, just sit and meditate, please. I'm like, oh God, we're never going to hear what happened.
Right. And do they have open wounds or just blood on their clothes or
What
what?
happened,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? I
Right.
mean,
What
they looked
happened? Yeah.
like kind
Right.
of bad B movie horror show, kind of.
Right.
It was a lot of blood.
Yeah. Mhm.
And so they're sitting in pure silence, meditating, these
Right.
four blood covered guys. And that light that's pouring off of them gets even more intensified.
Yeah.
And that's when I dimly have the idea, oh, we're receiving what just happened to them
Hmm.
by transmission. I was not sharp about all these things at that time, but some things did kind of get in there somehow. So okay, oh, so our job is to just watch them. So they meditate for a few minutes, and then finally Swami says, "Okay, tell what happened," and then they begin to explain what just occurred.
Yeah.
Which was that he had them take the cross down to, there's a subterranean, he called it a Shiva cave. There's a Shiva lingam, a rather large power object. For those who don't know, a Shiva lingam is usually like an oval shaped rock, which they will say is the embodiment of the God the Father energy in our planet, like the infinity of God. You can't contain it in a form. The Divine Mother, she's every form. She can come in any form,
Right.
physical forms.
Hmm.
God the Father, not so much. It is the deep, pervasive silence that is, that was, that ever shall be. That quality. And that we see usually in an oval shaped stone, implying the infinity of God, because you don't know where it starts or where it finishes. So in this subterranean, he would call it a cave. It's more like what we in the West would call a cellar,
Hmm.
is a square space underneath, many stairs down in the ground,
Okay.
with like a light bulb and this massive Shivalingam there. Beautiful power object. That did, in fact, belong to Jesus. It is 2,000 years old. That's a very interesting point, which I didn't know then. Anyway, so he took them down there with this cross. I don't know how they got it down those rickety little metal stairs to get in there, but and he had them hold the cross.
Hmm.
One guy on each beam, one man touching the Shiva lingam, and then he had Jonathan, who was pretty burly, strong guy, sit cross-legged on the floor with the cross between his legs, like holding it with his legs and his arms, because
Right.
again, it had no base.
Yeah.
And Swami mentioned, hey, don't let it fall down. You guys have to keep it up no matter what happens. This is really important. It can't fall. Okay.
Okay.
So they're locked in their
Right.
position holding this thing.
Hmm.
And then they said Swami began reciting mantras very softly.
Okay.
Mantras that none of these guys had ever heard before, which is interesting
Mhm.
because this is a very mantra heavy tradition.
Sure.
And most of them were already 2 years students of Swami. So they would have known if they
Sure.
recognized something. These were, mm-mm.
Hmm.
And then he started clapping his hands. He's saying these very soft mantras and he's clapping his hands. And then that's when the blood started to form at the heart of the cross.
Mm.
Where the two pieces meet, it started to bleed. And Jonathan, who's underneath it, was
Okay.
like, okay, there are drops coming,
Hmm.
drip, drip, this blood on
Oh,
his face, a little bit got in his eye, a little bit
right.
got in his mouth, and it's coming. And he's like, okay.
Yeah.
And then he said it kind of turned to a faucet, so it was a
Ouch.
drizzle,
Oh,
and then it just blew open like a fire hose,
right.
and it's just a torrent of
Right.
blood coming out of the center of the cross. And for Jonathan's side, Jonathan had been to that point a 30-year TM, transcendental meditation meditator and teacher.
Like a Jew from
Who,
New York, though, wasn't he?
yeah,
Practicing.
he was a Hindu. Yes,
Yeah.
he was a Jew from New York. He was a Brooklyn Jew. Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, a minimum day of meditation for him in 30 years was 3 hours. He was a
Wow.
very strong yogic soul.
Yeah. Sure.
He said the energy of that came up through him so rapidly and so intensely, he thought he was going to die on the spot. He thought he was going to explode.
Wow.
He could not hold that energy that
Ooh.
accompanied the gushing of that blood. And he's like, oh my God, what do I do? And then he said it came, send it, like a voice came.
Right.
And he spontaneously starts thinking of every human being he had ever met in his entire life.
Mm.
Like every person, from family to strangers to people he'd worked with to blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And every single one of them, he said the energy of that blood was just going to them. It was just pouring to them. It was just blessing them, whatever they need in their life at the
Right.
highest level. And he described it as a fire hose of pure, unconditional love that would accept no resistance.
Mm.
And then he ran out of individuals, and it's still flowing. And then he flipped to organizations that he had worked with as a management consultant. So corporations and schools and universities and hospitals. And it was going to all these establishments and blessing everybody in these organizations the same way.
Amazing.
And that was starting to slow down. And then Swami had sent word for them to come up. So then they came up. Wow. And Swami says to Jonathan, well, Jonathan, so you were holding the cross. Yes, Swami. Did you ever feel that it turned into a person? Jonathan says, Swami, if you're asking me, did I feel Jesus was there? Yes, pretty sure that was Jesus. Did I feel the wood turn like into a person, like
Legs?
flesh? No,
Yeah.
I didn't. And Swami said he was physically there for 20 seconds.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
So there's no doubt where this blood came from and whose blood it was. Whoa. And then Jonathan, typical Jonathan, says, but Swami, I'm a Jew from Brooklyn. Like
Why me?
I
Right.
have respect for him, sure. I mean, I know the name Jesus. I know he's a great teacher for the planet, but I don't have any ostensible connection to him. Why am I in this process? And Swami starts laughing and said, yeah, just wait. You'll see.
Hmm.
Okay, so then the deal is we all get to troop down in small groups of 10 people or so to see this thing.
Right.
And our instruction was touch the blood. Okay. I have no idea what that means. So I was in the very last group to go down. I want to say it was, time is so stretchy there. Maybe it was 45 minutes to an hour after the thing had actually happened.
Okay.
Because getting 150 people into groups of 10 to go down was a bit of a organizational task. Okay. So anyway, I'm in the very last group. And as we're going out the door to go down and experience this, whatever it is, I heard Swami yell at one of his senior students and say, tell them to hurry. I can't hold this channel open much longer. If I do, I will start to bleed internally.
Yeah. No pressure.
So there's a huge link between him, Christ, and this thing that's just happened. And it is something in his own physical structure is involved in it. That's all I got. Okay. So we go running. We're like running down. And we go down the little rickety stairs into this subterranean room. It's maybe about 15 feet by 15 feet with
Yeah.
a slate floor.
Yeah.
And that's when the scene hits me. And with my journalist mind at the time,
Hmm.
I thought, wow, I need to remember every detail of this. I have to record this.
Hmm.
And so what I saw was the cross is leaning against the wall near that Shiva Lingam. The cross is spattered in blood. The wall is spattered in blood. Some of it is darker bits like clots. I
Hmm.
got nothing. I'm just telling you what I saw.
Yeah.
Then it comes all the way down the face of the cross, and then it comes all the way across the floor. I would say at least 9, 10 feet
Yeesh.
long. It's like a river of blood coming off of the cross. It's about maybe a foot and a half wide.
Hmm.
It's about yay deep. And there's a group ahead of us who are on their knees in front of this river of blood, touching it with their hands.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, touch the blood. Okay, that's our instruction. So I had full, a few minutes to observe this thing. And as I looked at the cross, it's leaning against the wall. Still, from its cross bit, from the heart of it, it was still welling up, like
Mm.
so slowly. It was almost imperceptible.
Wow.
And ever so slowly, still kind of beating down in the house, like, oh my God, that thing is still active.
Wow.
It's got to be at least 45 minutes later. I'm like,
Hmm.
whoa.
Wow.
Okay, so I saw it still, you
Hmm.
know, and I'm assuming that's about as much blood as if a whole human system bled out.
Yeah.
I've never seen that much blood in one place in my my life. And I knew without knowing how I knew that this was Christ's blood. That was incredibly obvious.
Yeah.
The room was so holy. It was like a different planet. It was so elevated in there. There was no feeling of like, yikes, that's blood. There was no
Right.
human revulsion, queasiness, anything that one might expect when you see that much blood in one place. It was a complete transmission of divinity.
Mm.
That was very clear. It was incredibly sacred, and nobody said anything. We just were all very quiet and respectful doing this. So then the group ahead of us left,
Yeah.
and then we were on our knees, and I had to confront this in myself, like suddenly this wave of complete unworthiness came over me.
Mm.
And I remember having a split second thought of who am I to do this?
Hmm.
I'm just like the skeptical kid from, I was raised in rural Missouri and somehow I ended up here and I don't even know how I got here. And now I have the opportunity to physically touch the blood of Jesus Christ. You've got to be kidding me,
Right.
right? How?
Right.
And
Yeah.
then I thought, well, he told us to do it. So I put my hands in it, and it was sticky. I mean, it dried like blood, of course, like what you would expect.
Mhm.
And oh my gosh, it came out of there like altered forever, I think, on a different planet, feeling inside. And we heard later Swami had instructed the men to take that cross out of there and to burn it in his fire pit. And the men's clothing that had been covered in blood, he said, please put that in the fire pit as well. Nobody should retain any of that. That blood is so powerful. If anybody had a mind to misuse it, they could wreak havoc in this world. That's not okay.
Mm.
So all of it had to go into his fire pit. And then later we were given ash from
Ooh.
that cross, which I have used in many, many miracle healings and transformations for people. But a colleague of mine then had the interesting task of going down in there and with towels and buckets, sopping up all that blood, cleaning the floor,
Mm.
wringing it into buckets and then taking it up and pouring it in the garden. And he said while he was doing that, at one point he looked up and physically Jesus was standing there. And my friend was like, what? Oh my God. And he said the crazy bit was it seemed so natural.
Mm. Right.
And it also took my friend's neurophysiology to its edge. He said
Right.
the whole night he was just shaking. He couldn't sleep. And
Mm.
he was like watching the atoms in the air rearrange themselves. I mean, wow.
Right.
So that kind of blew him in a really interesting way.
Mm.
And then the next morning, oh, and people who had really chronic, serious illnesses, and there were some
Yeah.
that night, they touched that blood and they were completely healed. Done, finished.
Right.
As you would expect, I mean, you
Right.
touch a lot of our soul essence is in the blood. So if you touch
Hmm.
the blood of a divine
Right.
being
Right.
on a caliber of Jesus,
Mm.
um, yeah, that's going to affect you. So the next day, it was so crazy. And the next day, Swami's sitting he had a big cane swing under a tree. It's still there in Penaconda.
Hmm.
But he used to hang out in that swing a lot. And he's out under the tree in his swing. We're all sitting around his feet. And he's like a 5-year old. He's so giddy and like jolly and normal. And I cannot reconcile this version of him with that blazing eyed,
Right. Channeler.
all of the creation, like in a form, holding that all together the night before. I was just like, I can't even, oh my God, talk about a gear shift.
Yep.
And he's kicking back in his swing and he says, yeah, it's a little weird. Why would I make a cross bleed on Christmas Day? A little strange, right? Like an instrument of death or torture and on a birthday, right?
Mm.
Which I had been wondering. So I was glad that he mentioned that. And without missing a beat, one of my German colleagues, and like it was a conversation that had been out there, which it hadn't,
Yeah.
replied, oh, because no baby comes into this world without blood.
Mm.
Correct, said Swami Kaleshwar. And he elaborated by saying the Jesus energy on this planet has been very back for like 2,000 years to that point. So this was Christmas 99.
Hmm.
He said in a week it's going to turn, the whole millennium is going to change to 2000.
Yeah.
After it turns to 2000, the consciousness and the history and the reality of Jesus, who he really was and what he really did on this planet, will start to be restored to humanity in a really rapid, accurate way from
Mm.
here, from Pedaconda. And he said, we have opened the door for that by having this cross bleed like this.
Mm. Mm.
And I mean, there are 150 people in the middle of nowhere, South India, and I'm thinking, for the millionth time, how did I end up here? How is it that I have this great karma to
Mm.
have a front seat at this history making moment in our planet's spiritual awakening that most people will never know about? Oh my God. And then to ice the cake, Swami said, whoever touched that blood, those hands,
Right.
will do great healings in his name. And I
Hmm.
was honestly reduced to like looking at my hands going, are you for real? Really?
Right.
Really? And all these years later, I can say, yes, really.
Exactly. And you've been doing it ever since. And you've been telling the story, which is the whole point, is because what Jesus did was told stories from stump to stump. He wasn't a CEO and in front of stadiums. He was telling everybody the story that would listen. And that is how things change.
And
And
in the
how,
storytelling, the
yeah,
transmission of the energy is still alive. It's
exactly.
happening right now.
Right.
Telling
Exactly.
on that cross means, again, everybody's in that room.
Yep. Exactly.
Energetically, it's happening.
Yes. So well done, you. So here we are 5 years later,
Yeah.
having this conversation. How do you think we're doing? How are we as a collective doing with that mission of what was taught to you in
Oh,
that
I think we're
day?
right on track. I
Okay,
think
good.
my experience of this planet is it's a university where the souls come to learn some really interesting
Mhm.
experiences and lessons, and presided over by the likes of Jesus and many other divine characters. Some we know, some we don't know. And, I saw the turning point in 2000, how systematically, year by year, Swami Kaleshwar would teach us even more in depth. Like that was the opening shot.
Of course. Of course.
By the time it was 2003, 4, 5, like that, student groups were making crosses bleed.
Mm.
We were doing this.
Hmm.
All these works I did, you will do, and greater, says Jesus. And he doesn't mean nice charity, he means miracles.
Yeah.
So to see it come through us means it comes out of the realm of story. It's a living, breathing energy dynamic and a technology that anybody can learn if they are willing to do really hard work.
Yeah.
And I see now, 25 years later, myself, all of my colleagues worldwide, all of our students and our students' students are learning this knowledge, learning these techniques, learning these very difficult, they're very challenging spiritual technologies. They are not for the faint of heart, as you might imagine.
Right.
And doing the healings and demonstrating miracle things. And I see the consciousness coming up, 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 up. I see the womb energy coming up, 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 collectively, planet wide. As a result, I think of that kind of opening shot in Christmas 1999 coming from this obscure place called Penuconda.
Hmm.
And we see, of course, the pushback from the negativity,
Right.
the old ways of doing things, the business as usual, in response to the consciousness coming up. You see an enormous amount of negativity as a kind of blowback
Hmm.
to the wake up. And that's all in the realm of what this looks like. So to me, I feel like, yep, it's right on schedule. I find it very heartening indeed.
Do you think in our lifetime we're going to witness a great awakening to the levels that you were told was coming? I wonder.
I kind of think we have to, otherwise, what's the point?
Right.
You
Right.
know, I mean, Swami Kaleshwar trained, I would say, directly several thousand students and gave them what I would call the keys to the kingdom. He really gave us
Hmm.
the whole ball of wax.
Right.
Unpacking it takes time.
Sure.
Living in it, learning how it operates. Like you're handed a big gift, but then it takes you like 10, 20 years to figure out exactly everything about it.
Sure.
Okay, so many of us, I would say, are in those throes,
Hmm.
and then training as many other people as we can to also come up to that.
Yeah.
And um, I think when it hits a certain critical mass, the whole lid will be peeled off of that. But it doesn't mean that there will be an end to negativity in our planet. There will always be negativity
Right.
in this planet.
Yeah.
That's part of the deal.
Yeah. That's the point.
How much of a grip it has on all the souls, that's
Mhm.
a question mark.
Right.
And how relevant it will be, say 10 years from now, that's
Mhm.
another question mark.
Right.
But yeah, I do see the quality. The other thing, the sort of, I would say Swami Kaleshwar had two main sort of marching orders from the divinity. One was to restore the reality of Jesus historically and in terms of what he actually taught and knew and all that
Hmm.
to the planet.
Hmm.
Part one. Part two, it was to restore the understanding of who Divine Mother is
Right.
in a real way, not in a woo woo, I hope she's like this, want to make it up kind of way. And those two things are actually inextricably bound together.
For sure.
Jesus himself was an extraordinary worshiper of Mother Divine, not only through his physical mother, but the mother writ large. And
Mhm.
that's a chapter that I feel needs to be also restored to humanity,
Mhm.
and put in its proper context. And that implies you'd want to know who she is, the real creatrix of this planet. And that's not an easy subject either.
No, it's not. It's like flying an airplane. There's a lot of dials. There's a lot to learn. And
Yes.
it's worth the journey, as my dog loves the energy now. Of
Oh,
course. She's like,
baby.
oh my goodness, please let me be part of this
Oh,
energy. I am
such a
so,
happy, happy girl.
yes, very happy energy. Well, thank you. Thank you for all the work you're doing for everybody who's watching and listening. UCBK.org. You can learn more about Alex. Of course, you can also go to energeticsofselfcare.com. But what the teachings we were talking about with the womb chakra, please go to
Mhm.
ucbk.org
Yeah.
and reach out to Alex and learn this operating system. This is how we can continue to go up and make sure we don't disappoint, the beautiful journey that's coming so that we can make sure we honor what's going on and what needs to happen. Like you say, if we're right on track, let's keep going,
It's
right?
coming.
Yeah.
Divinity takes time.
Hmm.
Negativity happens really quickly, and it seems to gain power, like a snowball rolling down a hill. It just gets bigger and bigger, and it seems insurmountable
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah.
Divine, step by step, layer by layer, bit by bit, as it comes up in the consciousness. And we're doing that, I think, planet wide. All the different, spiritual traditions and paths, and everybody is doing their part
Yeah.
to contribute, from whatever side and angle they're coming from. And I would say that the ultimate kind of statement about that, it's interesting. Swami Kaleshwar wrote a book called The Real Life and Teachings of Jesus Christ, which he released in 2010, I think.
Hmm.
And that's quite a book. It has a lot of things in it, including it has a kind of redux teaching about the womb chakra in it.
Hmm.
And yes, and I remember at the time when he put that book out, I was like, wow, he's putting really high level stuff in that book from
Yeah.
straight from those ancient manuscripts
Yes.
out in the public arena. And a colleague of mine and I were talking about this, and she said, he put the womb chakra in there. He wants to initiate the whole planet into the womb chakra energy
Yeah.
with or without their conscious awareness. And I thought, oh my God, that's exactly it. And
Hmm.
since then, I've seen exponential, expansion, especially in the women, but not only in the spiritual souls and the caliber of the consciousness coming up on the planet. It's been kind of dramatic. So
That's
I've enjoyed watching that, and I'm hopeful to see what happens over the next, say, 10 years, whatever.
yeah. No, I'm with you too. We've seen some incredible people show up to do their part. So thank
Mm.
goodness for that. And I
Yeah.
continue to be amazed at how it's, opening up college students, doctors, mothers,
Yes. Yes.
children, brothers, sisters, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's happening and we cannot stop it. And
Yeah.
that's what's supposed to happen. So
Yes,
I
I
just
think
am,
so.
yeah, I'm so grateful you're doing your part and that somehow I was able to reach out to you and connect you because it's really been fantastic. I could talk
What
to you.
a delight. And
Yeah,
honestly, thank you for being such a beautiful kind of clearinghouse for all the different things that your audience gets to hear and get exposed to these crazy, interesting, helpful
right.
uh, things, coming from every aspect of spirituality. It's a big thing, a big service that you're doing.
Well, thank you. And like you, I never saw this coming. I didn't believe in any
No.
of this shit. I was just
Nope.
meeting my deadlines and now look at
Nope.
what's happening. And so,
I'm so, how many times I'll say my students will come back after they do their first couple healings for someone using these kinds of miracle energy tools,
mhm,
and their minds are blown.
right.
They'll say, wow, I wasn't really sure. I felt really nervous. And yet the person like completely got transformed. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yep, what do you know? This shit works.
Yeah.
Hey, why do
Hey,
you think I've been doing this for 25 years?
turn on the ignition, people. Let's go.
Yes. Yeah. Game
Oh,
on.
no. Game on, game on. And we're stronger together. So thank you.
Ah, a million times. Yes.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. My dog just hit the table. So there you go. Gotta
As
love it.
dogs will do.
As they will. As they will. Well, thank you again. Big
Oh,
blessings to you. UCBK.org. I'm going to go ahead
beautiful,
and do
Jenniffer.
this. What a treat. It is.
Oh,
It's just amazing right now. Oh
oh,
my gosh.